Gang, it's the Squatch Detective Steve Kulls here. Tonight's show's sponsor is Coursera. If you're looking to level up your skills or explore a new field, Coursera has you covered. With more than 7,000 courses from top universities and companies, you can learn anything from data science to business, even psychology, at your own pace. Whether you're aiming to advance your career or just learning for fun, Coursera is the place to be. And the best part? Many courses are free to check out, and if you choose to opt for the monthly plan, you've got a 7-day free trial to see if it fits your needs. And for a limited time, you can save 40% off a year's subscription. Follow the link in the show description to start your new education today.
Welcome to Squatch-D where the truth is first before all else. Join your hosts, veteran investigator, TV personality, and author Steve Kulls, and from the Kentucky Bigfoot Research Project and the Kentucky Fried Fixes channel, Chris Bennett. Sit back and prepare to take yourself on a journey with the longest-running Bigfoot podcast, Squatch-D. Here are your hosts, Steve and Chris.
And good evening, cyberspace. Welcome to Squatch-D for today's date, December 15th, 2024. I'm your host, your guide, the Squatch Detective Steve Kulls, along with my co-host right down there, Mr. Chris Bennett.
Just getting used to saying 2024. Next, we're going to start working on 2025.
Yeah.
And been doing well for you up there in New York, man.
Everything has been honky-dory, although all eyes are to the skies.
I was fixing to say, you're working under umbrella or what? Looks like you guys are getting invaded up there or something.
It's kind of funny. There actually have been a bunch of sightings in New York State as well.
Yeah.
That came out the other day. So, because our governor's starting to speak out on it a little bit, but want to wish a happy birthday to Big G out there. Today is his birthday. I didn't call him today because usually Sunday is, his day, but happy birthday, Big. So I know he's out there even catching the show at some point in time. But it's been a very cold week up here in the 20s and even into the teens.
Yeah. Well, we've had, some 40 and 50 degree weather, which, I'm not really quite crazy about that, but not too awful bad.
But the west side of the state, the west side of the state got pounded earlier in the week. Pounded.
Yeah, I know. A lot of snow.
They get that lake effect snow off of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario.
Right.
Because we border two Great Lakes. So Ontario to the north, Erie a little bit more to the west. And it's ugly. You couldn't pay me to live in Buffalo because of the snow they get. Just wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Nope, not for me.
Yeah, I went up there one time, I think, in the middle of winter, in Buffalo. I can't remember. I think it was a place called Alcoa Aluminum. And, they had some snow on the road, buddy. Yeah, nobody else wanted to go there. That's why I volunteered to go.
But we have a very interesting show tonight. We're going to have a little discussion about a number of things. Basically, drone psyops, and of course, our favorite topic, Bigfoot, and where the psyops may fall into the whole Bigfoot category as well. And there was a great video I saw actually this morning by Chase Hughes talking about psyops, and he had covered this drone thing. Jen, the bouncer Jen, actually threw me a link to it about an hour ago, and not realizing that this kind of inspired the idea for tonight's show a little bit. We're talking because I wanted to talk about the drone situation anyway. That's pretty fascinating stuff going on. And I want to do it in a non-political sense. I don't want to put blame on anybody or anything like that who's not doing something.
Yeah.
But where the possibilities may lie, and is this all just a psyop? And we'll talk more about that in a bit. But first, you know what we do first here, here. We'll get to do our roll call. But this Wednesday night, for Wednesday night show, what we're going to do is we're going to do another challenge like we did, a super chat challenge like we did last month. And we'll stay on an extra hour on Wednesday night if we can get X amount of super chats.
All right.
So we'll have a little fun. Okay.
Like make a pot of coffee.
Yeah.
I don't like coffee, but that's fine.
Now I'm drinking a Monster salted caramel coffee.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, if you could put enough cream and sugar in coffee so it doesn't actually taste like coffee, it's not bad.
It always tastes like coffee.
Well, yeah, I don't know, man. No.
Yeah, sorry, folks. Chris is a teetotaler.
Yeah, well, I drink some iced tea, yeah, but with coffee, oh, no thanks. But now, those little Werther candies that are like coffee and caramel flavored? Yes, those are good. Those are good.
Now you mention it, this kind of tastes like that.
Yeah.
Except with a little bit of a caffeine and taurine kick. Woo!
When I was in the Air Force, we drank coffee a lot, not because we liked it, but because we needed to stay awake. And,
you know what? The first place I head to in the morning is my Keurig. Boom, 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 push the button.
Yeah.
That's my first place. And usually it's a 2 or 3 cup morning, depending on what I got on my plate.
Right.
But anyway, let's do our off. First in tonight, I believe, actually was Pat Collins. Pat Collins put a comment in there. I had to take it off because we'll talk about it. We don't like putting misinformation on our site. And, we'll talk about this rumor that's been going around. But, we can't ever, allow stuff that's not been confirmed.
Yeah. That's all it is, Pat. Just because it's not been confirmed. That's why.
Right.
No,
nothing personal.
Against you, buddy. No.
Yep. Okay. So first in tonight is Jay Charlotte. Hello, Jay. Walter Kroll in the house. Relic Hominin. Have a great. What's a psyop? Does it fix a damaged psi? That's true. Relic hominin from being the UK, a psyop may not be necessarily a word that's bounced around in the UK version of the English language. So, Sharon, hello, Sharon, good to see you. Walter Kroll, Mitch Hargrove, hello, Pete H, Danny Weeks is in. Roy Longley, how are you, sir? Jay Bachochin in the house as well. Sandra Piper, what's going on? Jennifer Arnold, hello, good to see you. Who else? Karen Fisher, hello. Don Gumout Jr., Tennessee Cherokee. Traveling with Jim, our good buddy Jim Lansing. Hello, Jim. Jen, the bouncer. Jen is in here with Baron, the office assistant. And my office assistant is over there pouting because, but just Steve, what's going on? Grasshopper, yup.
Grasshopper.
Mick is in the house. Hello, Mick. Deb, Mrs. Trackway, and as well.
Trackway, welcome.
Angel Nolan, hello.
Angel, good to see you, man. I'm lost. It happened. I'm lost.
Hey, and there's our good buddy from New Hampshire, Mike Tinsley, in the house. Mike, hello, sir. Ron Meldrum, hello, Ron. Good to see you, sir.
Ron?
The Beatron in the house. The Beatron is back. Arthur Watch. Hello, Arthur. Good to see you. Arthur? Pat Collins. There's Pat running around. The Susie Monster. Hello, Susie Monster. Boris Kahn. We've missed that. Goony Goo Goo.
Boris.
We missed that the last week or so.
Yeah. Goony Goo Goo.
Jay Fritz. Hello, Jay. Hey. That's right. Jay says, thank goodness drones don't poo-poo from the sky. At least not yet they do. Brian S., good to see you.
Brian, welcome.
Adirondack Bigfoot Hunter, hello.
Okay, I found my place again. Adirondack Bigfoot Hunter. Cool.
Eyes in the Woods. What's going on? Kaiju Ninja 1985.
Welcome.
Lori Gibbs, hello, Lori. Good to see you.
Lori?
There's that Grant Rasha. Grant, good to see you. And the answer to that is negative. And we'll explain why. Tactical Bigfoot Research, Mike, what's going on, brother?
Good deal. Good to see you, Tac.
Brian S. in the house as well. Brian, good to see you. And Danny Weeks.
Oh,
$5 for the extra. Or
thanks, Danny. We're doing that Wednesday, right?
Oh, I think Pat Collins went oops when I talked about the Brian Wolf. Brian, I am so sorry. I'll get you some episodes to get on the airwaves there. It's been kind of hectic for me over here. As I was telling Chris that I've been working overtime at work a lot now. So, but hell, it's good to be back to work, and that little extra money never hurts.
Yeah.
So, okay, now I know the sandwich savant in the house, and it turns out Adirondack. Oh,
thanks for the super sticker, Lori. $2 super sticker, Lori Gibbs.
It turns out Adirondack Big Funner is my good friend Jim Foe. So I've been out in the field with Jim. So awesome! Welcome aboard, Jim. Good to see you, brother. Oh, there's Bill finding the trackway. He finally managed to pipe in there.
Bill.
And okay, here we are.
Tracy Bennett.
Tracy Bennett in the house. Hello, Tracy.
That sounds a lot like Bennett, doesn't it? Bennett.
Well, close. Missing a syllable, though.
Yeah, just one. Okay, I think that's everybody, according to my list here. Okay.
So here is my illicit thoughts on this whole drone thing. So, yes, there are some misidentifications. Not all. There's definitely something going on to this phenomenon. What are they? Who are they? Who's behind them? Do I think for a second that there is a foreign government doing this? No. And the reason why I know, nobody's seen any military traffic. Do you think that our government is that stupid? It's so amazing how people will give our government credit for being this super secretive, very intricate operating country or government, and then claim it's stupid when it comes to this. They're not ignoring it, trust me. They know what's going on, and chances are they're behind it. And I have no doubt that the government is likely behind it. Now, as to why, now I just want to first and foremost get this out there. There's a lot of rumors, and they're nothing but rumors. They're just a bunch of people saying, well, I know a guy that said it's this. Or I know, and I actually saw the video that started it all. Was this podcast? Well, I know a guy that says that we're missing nukes. Right. Or there's a dirty bomb or whatever. It's had a few ruminations. So let me first say this, that there is no evidence that drones over New Jersey are looking for missing nukes. All right. There has been no verified reports by anybody saying that. It's not coming from the government. And I also would dare say that let's not be so naive and so quick to jump on that bandwagon. I'll tell you why, because that is a psyop in of itself.
Right.
Okay. Now let's talk about a psyop. What is a psyop? A psyop is when a thing is put out there to distract or to have a purpose but it doesn't really represent what's really going on. Now, let's just say for a fact, hypotheses rather, that there is a lot of concern within our government about the capabilities of drones dropping weapons, as we have seen in the conflict over in Ukraine.
Right.
So we need to come up with a law, but it'll never pass because so many people have these little drones and they're hobbyists, and there's industrial and commercial people have drones, and Amazon are putting drones up and you know, they're making deliveries, and Walmart wants to put drones up and make deliveries, right? So the opposition to that's going to be pretty staunch, right? So we need to create laws. So what we're going to do is we're going to send our best military grade drones all over the place. buzz some fields, buzz some people, create that panic. Why? Because then we can create a law banning certain drones, banning certain times of day, banning certain times of use, banning where you can go, banning. And that, in effect, will prevent anybody from any nefarious character from taking a drone up, putting it up, and bombing us. Right?
Right.
Sounds like a perfect psyop. And what's a psyop do? A psyop is made for the purpose of causing you to do something. They want something, so what they want is that control, or they want an expansion of government regulations, or like I said, they want something. So I think this is a perfect example of what's going on here.
And there could it be coincidence that these drones are being sighted over the most disarmed areas of our nation?
Right. Okay. So Mike says there's already laws on the book. Very true. But perhaps maybe they want funding as well, so they can have a more comprehensive way to track drones. Perhaps every drone that gets manufactured from a certain date will have its own little transponder on it. That way we know who owns the drone, where it's coming from. So there is another idea. So it may not necessarily be for that particular law, but let's face it, you can put a drone up at night. It's not illegal, not in a lot of places. There are a lot of local municipalities and local governments, but there's the other bellwether right there, is by the government keeping mum on it at the federal level. It's causing people to panic at the state and local levels. And we all know that when you have a panicking government, especially local governments, they make all kinds of ordinances and laws that are extremely restrictive.
Right.
So while, yes, there may be laws on the book, there may be more stringent laws at the local levels, such as the state and local levels, I should say. Right?
That's the trick. Do you feel frightened? You need to give me more power so I can protect you.
Or we need to give you less rights.
That's right.
Do I have to remind people of the Patriot Act?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Right? Where the government could spy on any email it wants to, tap any wire it wants to, FISA warrants, all that wonderful stuff, all these secret courts.
Ever since the Patriot Act, I've not felt secure on any phone call I've ever had. Of course, I'm not going to say anything illegal anyway. But
eyes in the woods. My drone certainly does not transmit an ID number to anybody. It was made in China, and I paid $150 for it. So, of course, it also doesn't fly very well. But the fact is, if somebody wants to do something nefarious, right?
It's not the size of SUV.
They're not going to put a transponder on the damn thing anyway, or they're going to disable it. If we remember the 9/11 hijackings, the reason why they had such trouble with the planes is once the hijackers got control of the cockpit, they turned the transponders off.
Right.
Once you turn the transponder off, then you become almost invisible. You'll come up as they'll track something, but they can lose it in certain areas of the country, as we found out. If you've ever read the 9/11 Commission report, there are areas in the United States where there is no radar coverage.
Between one radar station and the next.
Yeah. Right. Like there's very continuous from New York to Boston to Albany, but as you start getting out to the west a little bit, areas of Ohio, Western Pennsylvania, Ohio, there are gaps. You go down towards Virginia, Tennessee, those areas, there are gaps, and that's what we found out.
Yeah, most of the radar systems have a perimeter of the country.
Right.
Once you get over in the middle of it, not a whole lot. They're there, but if you get something in the gaps, well.
So, just the fact that we are not seeing a lot of UH-1H Black Hawk helicopters flying around. And believe it or not, I have been looking at, I have FlightAware. FlightAware does have a lot, I can track military aircraft on FlightAware, unless, of course, they turn their transponder off, which I've seen some do. For example, I did one time, and this is the power of this stuff, is I saw, I like playing around and I'm looking at this, and all of a sudden I saw a plane leave from, of all places, Tajikistan. Right? And it was a rather large plane. It was one of those big Russian planes, right? I'm sorry. It was a 888, a Boeing, or a Boeing 777, rather. Boeing 777. So I get on my thing, and what does the leader of Tajikistan fly in? Well, my gosh, golly, it's a Boeing 777. And this is when the conference was going on with the BRIC conference up in Russia.
Yeah.
And I'm watching the plane, and all of a sudden, blip, it disappears. Because they turn the transponder off. Right. But I followed that sucker out to but soon as it got out of Belarus's airspace and it flew out over the Black Sea it dropped its transponder off. That's so nobody can track it. So planes do have that ability. However, a lot of times, and we'll see that locally, we'll see how, we have a National Air Guard base near us. And I can watch them because they fly over here every once in a while, and I'll look at FlightAware and, oh, there it is. Yep. But a lot of times, every once in a while, we'll see the helicopters drop their transponders here as well. Yeah. And that's part of their training. They got to learn to drop the transponder to, yada, yada.
Well, when I started seeing the drones, I was thinking it's a little bit hard to believe that the government doesn't know where they're coming from.
Right.
That don't fly because, in the Air Force, all the bases around the perimeter of the United States, if anything comes within 200 miles of our property line, they're thinking about launching those alert birds.
and the size of these drones, you're definitely going to get a radar hit on it.
Yeah.
Right, because they're saying they're small SUV size or small car size. Right. About some of them are 3 feet by 5 feet. Some are a little bit larger. But then again, too, they made a great a drone expert on one of the local New Jersey channels, because I've been watching a lot of this.
Yeah,
made a good point that they have a 3 foot by 3 foot drone. It's not very big, right? But they use it for like different purposes. It can carry stuff. He put it up in the sky, and he says you can see it looks a lot bigger than what it is because of the lights and the span and whatever. It looks a lot bigger than what it is. So it's hard to tell when people say, "Oh, they see a car-sized drone." It's really hard to pick that out because they're flying lower than they think it is, or et cetera, because that elevational thing will
hard to judge size at a distance. Especially if there's nothing there to compare it to,
Okay, so hold on. When Zelensky was visiting Pennsylvania, he picked up the missiles. What did he rent a U-Haul? Oh yeah, let me pick up the missiles. Rent a U-Haul. What? No, that's not how things work, folks. When they drop those via military drops, the Polish, they're delivered to Poland, and Poland flies them over. And if you watch FlightAware, you would know, because you see these military cargo planes like a C-141 Starlifter take off out of Poland, and it's heading towards Ukraine, and all of a sudden, blip, the transponder turns off.
Yeah.
Or you see a Polish military C-130 start flying towards Ukraine. Blip, transponder turns off. That's how that happens. They're not going to fly them back in a Boeing 747.
Well, it'd be hard to get them through the airport there in New York. I believe it'd be pretty tough.
Right.
Oh, man. Yeah, he might have signed for him. Yeah.
Okay, and Eyes of the Woods, while a FOIA or a foil may sound great, you're going to get a standard denial from the U.S. government. Then again, when you submit a FOIA paperwork, which I have on several occasions, And I've actually gotten back, the entire case file of the Georgia Bigfoot hoax. I've gotten a couple of police reports on Bigfoot encounters in New York State. But you have to be very specific when it comes to a FOIA request. If you try to broad stroke it, they'll just return it and say, it's too broad stroked. We don't know what you're asking for or where to start to look for it. So who would you look for it? The FCC, the DIA, the NSA, the CIA. You don't know. All these 3-letter agencies, you don't know. But even if you did find the right agency, would you really expect them to tell you the truth? No. Nothing exists. Because if anything, if you learn anything about the way the government works, it's very compartmentalized.
Yeah.
Right? The left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing or the left foot's doing or the pinky toe on the right foot. They just don't know what they're doing. They're all doing their own thing. They all have their own heads to ask for. And eventually it all filters up to one guy, and that's the executive of the country, or in some cases they have to report to Congress, and that's where the differences come. But you got to remember the CIA, the FBI, the DIA, the NSA, ATF, and all those other are executive branch organizations. So it's going to be really, really tough to correct, Steve. This is, in other words, FOIA is not a fishing license. Yeah. Absolutely correct. You got to be very specific. When you have to ask for a police report, you got to have the date, the time, and what you're looking for. And you know what? I should say this a few times, more than a few times, because I've had the FOIA request a lot of times for fatal accidents, fatal fires, stuff like that when I was an investigator. And, including body cam footage and all that stuff. So when you actually ask for a FOIA request, you have to ask for what type of document you want, what type of media you want. So if media can be anything, I need the 911 call. I need the body cam footage from all officers on the scene. I need any evidentiary CCTV footage from the event. And then that's one record. Then if I want to get the fire report, and then I have to FOIA request the fire department separately and ask them for, I need the BIFR, which is the Bureau of Fire Incident Report. I need the BIFR. I need the, so that's a whole nother animal there too. Well, right now, I have dates and time. Excellent. Then
why don't they make some, if they want to bring one of these things down, why don't they repeal some local laws there or make some new local laws, make them illegal to fly at night? And so these nefarious drones can be shot down by the local residents.
Yeah, well, that's a bad idea too.
I think it's a good idea.
I don't, because you know what happens when you shoot a bullet up and it misses?
Well, it comes down, yeah, but it's not.
And you don't want it coming down on some kid, do you?
Well, no, but there's not very good odds.
Exactly.
Well, I think it would hurt him if it did.
Right, but you see, if they said, Steve and Chris, here are your rifles, go shoot down a drone, I would trust our judgment. It's giving a gun, it's giving a weapon to Elmer Dinkley, saying, "Go, all right, I'm going to shoot down a drone."
No offense,
and they're taking shots at helicopters and planes and all that fun stuff. So yeah, not a good idea for the civilians to just go out there and eyeball it and say bang.
Yeah, I've been underneath the lead shot rain before when we were bird hunting. That happens sometimes. The bird goes up and you pow, and then you feel the lead shot, but it's not like it's coming down as fast as it left the barrel. No, it's just a little
right. But that's a shotgun, correct? That's a shotgun, right? But you're shooting, say somebody decides to shoot, a projectile round.
Yeah.
Right. That's going to go up and come down.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it's just the idea of arming people to go after these things, unless it's a state of, war, I would not recommend it. They haven't done anything. Let's face it. They haven't done anything dangerous, have they?
Well, they did close an airport for a little while. So yeah,
yeah, and they arrested the 2 clowns for that one too, by the way.
all right,
Right, and it was a private drone.
okay.
It wasn't a very big drone. It was like their own little hobby drone. So,
but see, when something like that, they're not dangerous, no, but they can shut down an airport. These 2 guys with a hobby drone. So, but our government tells us, which, I've been watching the same news you guys have. Our government tells us we don't know what they are, but we do know that they're not dangerous. They don't propose any threat, any national security threat. Well, how in the hell, excuse my language, I'm sorry. This makes me angry. How can they tell us that they know they're not a threat when they don't know what they are?
Why not says I'm hunting drones. Be very, very quiet. I'm hunting drones.
Yeah. How can you tell somebody that something's not dangerous when you don't know what it is? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
He's either saying that in the voice of Elmer Fudd or Mike Tyson. I'm not sure which.
No, I think that I would rather the government be honest with us if they don't know what's going on and say, well, all we know is there's some drone activity there. Nothing has happened bad.
Well, you see, the best lie is one that's mixed with the truth, right?
Yeah.
They know they're not dangerous, right? And there's no evidence. I mean, this has been going on since December 5th.
Right.
It's been 10 days and not one has taken any single action, direct action to hurt anybody or harm anybody or any of that nonsense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So they're right. They haven't been harmful, but I bet you they know where they're coming from. And like somebody said, there was this senator or representative that said, well, there's a rumor out there that there's a Iranian mothership out at sea off the coast of New Jersey. Like New Jersey's a friggin' mecca of, military intelligence, right? Yeah, he drank the Kool-Aid. What's in this cup? As he's walking through the Senate Hall.
Start with conspiracy theories about an Iranian mothership. Got out the tinfoil hat.
Right. But okay, people have seen these drones fly out to sea, right? How do we know it's not one of our ships out there that are landing them all? Maybe there's a Coast Guard ship or there's a Navy ship out there that they're all landing back onto and put it under deck, boys. Put it under deck.
Right?
It.
Yeah. So they're not doing anything. Don's got a good point here. Don says aerosol ring drones.
Chet and Chet, I agree with you 100%. He says, "Oh yeah, they know what they're doing. A psyop. We just got right." And you're right. I mentioned that. And the final cause for a psyop too is they may be trying to distract us from something. Maybe they're trying to, and there's political things that you could say that they're trying to distract us from. So I would say this: just look in the news and see what's being distracted from.
Right.
So that's what I would.
The problem is when we don't have answers, then we have the conspiracy theory people, which start putting two and two together and coming up with 587. Right.
But Pancho, here's the problem I have with these being civilian drones. How long are you going to get out of a battery? You're not going to get very long out of a battery. Yeah. Right. So they would have to be very expensive gas-powered drones. Right. And let's face it, the gas power has more energy, more speed, and these have shown incredible speed to some people. Right. They have shown incredible length of time being in the area of action. Right. Because you can't throw it. Let's face it, like the Ukrainians aren't using Phantom 4 drones to go, do things to the Russian army, and the Iranians vice versa to the Ukrainian army. Let's face that. They're using gas-powered drones that are a little bit larger than we're used to seeing, and that can carry a payload. And these drones that we're seeing look like they're the type of drones to carry a payload. Perhaps we're upping our game. In fact, if anybody hasn't noticed too, that we just recently tested our own hypersonic missile just a couple of days ago, and it worked. So, yeah, we're catching up real fast. And I think what you may be seeing is the military's catch-up speed to this drone stuff.
Mick's got a good point here. I read the story, Mick. That's about the 300 vials of deadly viruses missing from an Australian lab that nobody seems to know about. And that's another reason why if the general public does not know what's going on, they start putting two and two together. Well, these drones are flying over these areas and they're not doing anything.
Right.
How do we know whether they're not full of vials of stuff spraying it?
Right. Can't identify a drone. Mike Tactical Bigfoot Research sent me a text, and there is actually now an app, and I know Alex Petikoff was using it as well. And it's called the DroneTracker.app. Basically, it's a system that you can see reported drones and what's being observed from the drones.
Well, some of the reports that I had seen where they were tracking these drones, they said that with thermal, they said that they didn't give off the same thermal signature as a normal drone. So if these drones have a masked thermal signature, that screams military, all in a loud voice.
Well, it also screams military is none of your commercially bought drones has an off switch for the lights.
Yeah.
Right? These have turned their lights off when people start to notice them.
Right.
So that means somebody is behind the wheel of that thing, sitting somewhere watching. Now, who has that ability to watch a drone camera, right?
Right.
Miles and miles away? That's the military, because they're using satellite to coordinate.
Sure.
Right. So, yeah. This is a military op. And for all we know what this could be, because really the drone started being seen over the Trump's Country Club in New Jersey. That's where they were seen first. That and the nearby base. For all we know, they could be Secret Service drones.
Well, they're around the Picatinny Arsenal too, and that's a very important place.
Well, yeah, they could be testing them. They'd be flying them out of there. And of course, the commander at Picatinny says, "Oh, I have no idea what they are."
Yeah.
Remember the day after Roswell. What did they tell us? Oh, it was a weather balloon.
Right. Exactly.
Ignore that last thing where we said we actually downed the flying saucer.
Well, there is these things that they put out for specific misinformation, like when they're testing new aircraft at top secret locations and somebody says, "Hey, I think I saw a UFO." That they're like, "Yeah, you probably saw a UFO." That's amazing. Let's talk about that. It was a UFO.
Right. And it's okay to fly a drone without lights on during the daytime. That's perfectly fine. And you're right. There is no, but we're not talking, Pancho, about 250 grams or less drones. We're talking about, poundage.
Oh, yeah. These is probably $3 million a piece drones from the government.
The other kicker is, we got to remember too that there was some weather. They had a very windy day in New Jersey, and that the weather the high wind seemed not to affect these drones. And for all we know, maybe the drones are in search of UAP.
Yeah, could be. But there's so much that we don't know.
Right. We can speculate all day what they're doing, but I can tell you what they're not doing. They're not looking for missing nukes. Because you would have let's face it, they shut the city of Boston down for 2 bombers back in 2013, right?
Yeah. Well, in the 80s, I don't know if they've changed it now to where it'd make it less safe, but I doubt they would have. If the Air Force was going to fly a mission with a nuclear weapon, that weapon was unarmed. It was the nuclear package was removed from the weapon before it was ever loaded on the plane.
So there has been a report of a down drone in New Jersey. But here's the interesting thing about that. Nobody's talking about it. The police departments, the fire department. The fire department not talking about it. Why aren't they talking about it? And they're all local government. Right? So is it really a crashed drone? Because I think somebody would be saying, hey, Leah, we found one of those crashed drones.
Well, now there was a small plane that went down in that area that was people were saying it was a drone, but it was a small aircraft. It wasn't a drone.
So let me
unless it's another one. There's been so much stuff going on. But it's hard to dip through the what's information that is available and the speculation that everybody's doing on it. Yep. I believe it's a psyop. I think that the government, the federal government, I think wants more power to deal with drones because they now know weaponized drones is a heck of a weapon. I mean, they can be weaponized to really do some miraculous things. When you can take what looked like to be a commercial available drone that are used in Ukraine and arm that thing and take out a tank. Okay, our government starts thinking about this. And it may be a situation where they want to remove commercial drone, hobby drones, or require a license like you would have to purchase a firearm. You'd have to fill out a form in order to buy a drone. That's registered to you. Oh, man.
Okay, so there have been reports of mysterious drone activity over New Jersey recently, including a small drone crashing into a backyard on December 13th, 2023. This incident came amid widespread drone sightings that have been raising security concerns across the state. The drones have been observed over blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it was a small drone that crashed into a backyard after hitting a power line. It wasn't one of the big ones. So, okay, so John Swan are Indian drones. No, I doubt it. Again, they're Iranian drones. Why aren't they doing something? Right? And do we really think that they're so... Listen, Israel just bombed them back to the Stone Age a couple of months ago. Right? Let's face it, the Iranians don't have the technical chops to get a drone to this side of the Atlantic Ocean, right? Iranians shipping typically does not go northeast or east. It goes southeast, if anything. So I wouldn't...
I wouldn't hold my breath that it was Iran doing it. I don't think so. There's the people are angry because the government is not giving answers.
So let me ask Jen a question. Jen sent me a picture right here, and I'm gonna is that supposed to be a drone, Jen? Just type yes or no. I'm very curious to see this, and I'll show everybody what I'm gonna if this is supposed to be a drone.
Me too, Steve. Curious Cryptid Steve is I can go with Elvis there.
Okay, let me explain it. Okay, so this is the picture I got sent, and I'm gonna try to show everybody, right?
Oh yeah, that's a small plane crash. Yeah,
that is correct. And the reason why I can tell you that is because there is the end tail number that you can't see right on the end of it. That is a plane. That is not a drone.
Right.
Planes have end tail numbers. It's got a tail number on it. So I can tell you right off the chute that's a plane crash. And there was a report of a small plane crash in New Jersey in the last few days. Yeah. So, no, it's got an end number. In fact, Yeah, it's N388P something or other. K or KCRC or something like that. So,
well, the things they've told us about these drones, it seems like they're not commercially available drones. There's
yeah, here it
something
is. Here it is. I'll tell you. Yep, I'm going to pause this.
private.
Here we go. This happened on December 3rd, 2024. National Transportation Safety Board has released new details on a deadly plane crash on I-684, the New York Connecticut border. Wasn't even in New Jersey. It had, because the picture that you sent me is actually on the New York Connecticut border. It happened around 6:30 p.m. Thursday between exits 2 and exit 3 in the Westchester County, Greenwich area, Connecticut area. This pilot of a small single-engine plane reported engine failure moments before the crash, according to the NT. And blah 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 blah. Officials say the passenger was from Muncie, died in the crash. The pilot was from New Jersey. He was from Linden, New Jersey. Who has minor injuries. So the official multiple departments say it's a miracle no drivers were injured since the plane crashed in between traffic on the interstate. So yeah, debunked. Yeah. Whoever's sending that is fake news, false information. Somebody's sending.
Yeah, somebody's probably knowingly doing that, probably trying to get clicks or whatever.
And the big kicker is every plane. Drones do not have tail numbers. Drones will not have an N number on it. They won't have any writing. Maybe they may have some model makers or whatever. But when you see something like that with a tail number on it, that has an N number. N is a United States number. So anything with N, any plane number that's registered in the U.S. begins with N. Because we like nachos so much. So N, blah, blah, blah. I have no idea why they did that, but
not military craft though.
Right.
They're labeled with the tail numbers, the base, the first couple letters of the base.
Right. Civilian, let me say privately or civilian owned aircraft, business owned aircraft. So yeah, that the minute I saw that, I looked at it and I saw the tail number. Now, the reason why I know this very, very is that I do have kind of an affinity to aircraft. I was an aircraft rescue firefighter from 1993 through 1997 as part-time, part of the Albany International Airport. So I do know a lot about aircraft, types of fuel, passenger configurations, souls on board, all yada, yada, yada. So the minute I saw that, I was like, I sense fake news, damn it.
Yeah, Mick's got a good point too. Foreign spy drones won't have red, white, and blue aviation lights either.
Right, and that's the other thing. If they were Iranian drones, they wouldn't be lit up at all. Why would they even care about air traffic?
Right.
So these are, the only time they turn them off is, oh crap, we've been spotted. And they turn it off.
When people say that our government doesn't know what it is,
right? Over 55 pounds have to be required an FAA registration. That doesn't mean they get a tail number or an N number. So,
I think our government knows pretty much what's going on. It's just they don't want to tell us for some reason, and that may be this whole thing may be leading to a psyop. They want us frightened, so we will relinquish rights and give them more power.
Or they're trying to frighten us to keep our eyes off of something else they don't want to keep us on.
Yeah, it could be a distraction, right? It could be a distraction.
Such as, where's Waldo?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it could be a distraction.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's paying much attention to what's been going on in the White House recently. Of course, we're not going to be talking about it because that's political.
Right.
But,
right. But we have to, that is political, but it's not political. We can't rule that out as one of the things, because there's been a lot of people saying, everybody seems to think that the administration is checked out. And, so, that's, could this be possibly to distract from the fact that, our head guy is not there? I don't know. That is one possibility, and we cannot discount that.
I says, why would one admin do a psyop for the next admin, unless it's the career people?
Well, you got to understand too. If you've read anything about Lou Elizondo and his book about his experiences, there is a establishment in the government. Hey, listen, I've worked for the government for the last 17 years, and I don't, I'm a union member, and I'm not really worried about who, the president, the senators, these, congressmen. They're all just temps.
Mm-hmm.
They're all just temps. They get voted in. The president is only a temp. He's only going to be there 8 years max, right?
Right.
But me, and like the head of the department, he's only a temp too. Really, he's a political appointee. The people that are under him are the real people that run the work, the machinations of our. I listen. Why would one admin do a psyop for the next admin? Again, it could be career people convincing some people that are higher up the chain that this would be a good idea to do, or perhaps it's trying to protect the admin that's going out in the first place, which could entirely be possible. As we hear all this drone stuff, we're not hearing the questions of where's Waldo. We're not hearing it, right? So that there's probably a good reason why.
Well,
and if anything, that may also be to protect us from our enemies too.
Well, I would also like to point out though that there are a lot of unused materials that they're purchased.
Hold on. Eisenhower said if this is a psyop by career people, they can't hide this level of effort. They can't. One might, maybe, not this. One night, I believe they say maybe.
Yeah.
What about Roswell? They covered that one up pretty good, and that was a pretty big event, right? That went worldwide that we had captured a flying saucer. There's a difference between the CIA and the military-industrial complex. The military-industrial complex it's a group of industrialists. They own companies that provide weaponization to the United States. Now, it's possible it could be one or the other. Maybe it is maybe it is some government contractor showing off what their drones can do. And while the military is feigning ignorance to it, they could be evaluating the effectiveness of them. So I don't know.
Well, Roswell was one crash, not one crash a night for 3 weeks. Well, that's the thing that, people, how many people is really paying any attention? How many people are looking?
Roswell was a one-night event carried on by media. This one's gone on for 20 days. Mind you, this is also carried on by media.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not to the level. It's just some drones flying around, for crying out loud. Nothing spectacular. And it wasn't a statement by the government, except we don't know. How can they not get away with it? Under the guise of national security. Are you that naive? Are you that naive? Should we go back to November 22, 1963? Right? You're going to deny that there was some level of government compliance with that? And that went on for longer than 20 days. That's gone on for almost 75 years. So,
probably not too many people. This has probably been going on for a little bit longer.
There you go. Contractors play. Yeah, I mean, that is one possibility. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I don't fall down the rabbit hole too often, but there are some. Remember, conspiracy theory is a maligned word because a lot of conspiracy theory turns out to be very true.
Some of them, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Maybe some fringe theories. I mean, why the government, after 75 years, is still withholding documents from a presidential assassination, that should raise some flags. Why are they withholding documents from an alleged UFO crash that occurred almost 80 years ago? That should raise some red flags, right? So let us let us understand the creature we're dealing with. If you're expecting the truth, you will not find any. You will not find any from the government. You will not find any now. You will not find any in 20 years about this. Right? Well, because this is under the guise of national security. And the reason why, whether it's nefarious or not, they will always tell you there's nothing to be alarmed about. Right? Or they could be softening us up for something else. If we get used to seeing all these drones flying over, think about this. In 10, 15 years, there'll be military drones all over the place. We won't think twice about it, will
we? Yeah, well, I will. Yeah. Well, that's the thing about our government. You know, the people are angry. They're demanding answers. But the government says, we will tell you what we want you to know. And that's, you know, you can either accept it or not.
And Chris, we will wonder, as will our audience members wonder. But for the many sheeple that are out there, and I hate to use that term, but a lot of people are sheeple. They are wrapped with apathy.
Yeah.
You know, and let's face it, you know, we all have apathy in some regard, some sense. Certain parts of our life or certain things that hit the news, we're very apathetic about. It's only these things that are near and dear to our heart. And truthfully, you know, Bigfoot people are the same people that find interest in the UAP phenomenon, the paranormal, conspiracy theory, stuff like that.
Mystery.
We're naturally inquisitive people.
Yeah, right.
So what I'm trying tonight is to be the voice of reason that, yeah, there's a lot of things why I don't think this is necessarily a foreign power invasion. I think this is coming from within. Yeah. And we always want, and what it is, I'm not sure yet. But we always have to worry about, you know, what's the ask from all this? And you watch. If there are laws that come up within the next, say, 6 months about drones, or permissions to do certain flyovers, or releasing of permissions to federal, state, or local authorities to do certain things about drones, you will have your answer right there.
Yep. Now, we need you to relinquish your rights so we can protect you. That's the whole deal.
Let us segue into the next hour. What in the world does this have to do with Bigfoot? And I'm going to tell you why. Now that we've kind of gone over the ground rules and the basis for Psy-Ops. Right. Now I want everybody out there that's out there listening, out there on iHeartRadio, Sirius XM, Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Music. I want all of you to really think about this for a minute. When you hear a particular podcast or show, TV show, podcast, whatever, partake to an agenda that has no factual basis, right? That has murky sources. Because you can always tell the authenticity by something about the source, right? That's why we try to be very fact-based here on this show. What we say is based in fact, and analysis, not based on murky or anonymous sources, right? So, or stories. We look at, and I'm going to give you the greatest example of it of all. It is the Sasquatch Chronicles. If you like Sasquatch Chronicles, by all means, keep watching it. But they have turned down their original message. Remember, their original message is that Bigfoot's dangerous. Bigfoot's a killer. Bigfoot's this. And they surrounded themselves with weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks of stories from anonymous sources about how dangerous the Bigfoot was and how threatened a person felt and how scary it was, etc., etc., etc. See, that in of essence is a psyop in of itself. And people may not realize it or have the technical jargon to call it a psyop, but that's exactly what it is. Right? We have people like the clown last week promoting the Ketchum study, just outright lying, telling mistruths, right?
Right.
Using right? And when you check the sources, it turns out to be all wrong. It's all mistwisted. It's all lies, right?
Completely made up quotes, right?
Right. That's a psyop. That's a psyop. Now, whether it's what the purpose of that was for, why all of a sudden this guy has made 2 Bigfoot videos, has his own little following for years, never's done a Bigfoot video before, and now all of a sudden he chooses to do such, but he does it in such a manner that he lies about the proponents of the Bigfoot mystery, misquoting them, lying about what they're saying, etc., to promote a creature. I think what he's trying to do is discredit us. It's a psyop because he knows that these people are going to say, no, this is so. It's kind of like this. If I've never said that, I never said that. Well, Bigfoot's not real then, right? You got to look at it from that way. But look at the Ketchum study. Was that not a big psyop? We have a cat vet that decides she's going to be a geneticist and then molds a study to her theories rather than the theories to the study.
Yeah.
That's a psyop in of itself too. Why? What does she want? She wants a following. She wants power. That's why there was a draconian NDA.
Yeah.
Right. How about that dude out there on the West Coast who claims to be a psychologist? You want to talk about a psyop? Comes up with a story about Bigfoot that seems really credible, and after about 10 years, he starts making stories up about Zorth and the Council of 12 and how he's this and he's that. Why? Because he wants a cult following so they can all sit in a circle and have testimonials and have faith healing that Zorth will heal them all. And in turn, one of their own members dies of cancer because he doesn't want to get treatment because Zorth has got it covered.
Yeah, that's just a whole lot wrong. He shouldn't be.
And what a coincidence! The guy's a psychologist. What a perfect psyop, right?
Playing with people's minds, right?
Create your own cult.
Yep.
And within that cult, the Bible is his books, the books he has written. That's the Bible. That's all about Bigfoot. That's all about life. That's all about this. And that the Bigfoot has a global influence and a global. All we know is Zorth right now is running about 50% on election results. Because Zorth wasn't around in 2016.
Oh, Zorth. You can't win them all.
Yeah. What else can you think of, Chris? Chris, I can hear that. That's coming right through your mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sitting there reading Danny. Yeah, that was for Wednesday, Danny. Tonight's a 2-hour show. And
I can get away with that because my mic is on a boom arm.
I'm sorry, man. Yeah, my mic's sitting on the table, so if I tap the table while I'm reading, sorry. But
let me digress into something.
Zorth is a Christian. I didn't know this, Boris. Is that correct? Zorth is a Christian?
Yes, he is.
I did not know that.
Well, why should it be so not believable? Because, the guy that runs the cult is a Christian. And he's twisted it.
Oh, okay.
Right? If I'm correct.
Well,
I haven't read the Bible of Zorth, so
no, I haven't either. Probably not likely to. But
I thought about it, but I didn't want me to walk out the door and my brain fall out of my head because I've read that book too much.
Well, it's okay. Religious studies, it's good to know what other people believe. It helps you communicate with others of different faiths. But I'm not sure I would want to subscribe to not taking medicine if I have a medical condition. I don't think Zorth is going to cure me.
Well, we've seen that time and time again in ultra religious people.
Yeah.
That and my favorite joke in the world is, thank you, Jay.
Oh, Jay Fritz gifted 5 memberships. Thank you, Jay. You're too kind. We're not worthy. Oh man. Somebody famous.
Yes, I will. I will count Danny's towards that. Yes. I will change the goal accordingly that night.
Absolutely. And someone famous once said that to make the most money or something, more money than you've ever seen, you start your own religion. So,
let's think about this. Let's think about this. Now, Mick brings Ray Wallace ran his own Sasquatch Psy-Ops. Not really. Because, it could be too. But really, for a Psy-Op to work, it's got to be public because it has to work on the emotion of others, right?
Yeah.
Think about the emotion when Ketchum announced before releasing the actual results. Hence why they had this big press release before the results of the study, which is completely contradictory to what science says. Science says you do not speak of a study results until you release the study results, right? But what did Robin Lynn Forest people, or whatever the hell her name is, that welfare, the woman who was eventually convicted of welfare fraud, Robin Lynn Forest people. She had this big press release about the study, a couple of months before it was supposed to go out. People forget about that stuff. That's another break in the scientific rule book, right? People want to say, oh, well, Melba's science. Really? She broke so many rules. They add that to the other couple of ones she broke. But if you think about it, why have a press conference unless you want to evoke that emotional response in people? Oh my God, they have Bigfoot DNA. Right?
That's what it's all about.
Right.
Create the headlines.
Right. So, in essence, you can take lessons from a psyop in looking at all of these examples. Sasquatch Chronicles. Let's talk about missing 411. There is another, and you know what? The apple doesn't fall far from the tree because Polites and Melba are like this. Right? There is another, bringing out all these most inane weather anomalies and these 417 factors or whatever number of factors he has. Oh, does it match this? Does it match that? Well, I can pull out the same 14 factors and probably I can pull out 14 factors myself out of what day or what time or what day of week or what time of month it is for a homicide to occur and say, see, they were driven by the devil. Right? You can mold evidence into your hypotheses.
Right. Yeah.
Right. When the exact opposite of investigatory and scientific principle is to you mold your hypotheses into the evidence. Always. So there's another one. And of course, being on television is the perfect opportunity because the TV, Oh, we want to generate buzz. Again, psyop. Hollywood is a psyop in of itself. They want to evoke that reaction. That's why TV shows don't work for Bigfoot. Or mostly anything science.
Steve, I'll be right back.
All right. Uh-oh. Either one, Chris ran out of cigarettes. Two, he ran out of ski, which is my bet. Or three, he ate something really bad for dinner. We're going to find that out when he comes back, aren't we? Boris, another great one. The Bigfoot Massacre at Bluff Creek. M.K. Davis losing his momentum as being the number one analyst of the Patterson-Gimlin film due to the work of Bill Munns. The great work of Bill Munns. Now, Ben Radford, you may disagree. That's okay. But his work was a lot more thorough and much more informative than that of M.K. Davis, who basically just manipulated the images on the film. So why not create this massacre theory? Boy, that'll evoke a reaction out of a lot of people. And at the same time, hurt another guy that's much older than he is. Again, Eyes in the Woods. Every television show is a psyop. Look at it that way. Look at it that way. Fiction, nonfiction. The secret sauce is the same for everything on TV. Is to get you through the next commercial break. And in the, in your documentaries. And in the case of TV shows. All right, we all want to know, did you run out of ski?
Back. No, Milo decided he's going to jump the barrier and go outside looking for drones, I guess. One of the little Yorkies. He's safe and sound again.
Wrong on all accounts. We were taking bets. Either you ran out of ski, needed to roll more smokes, or you ate something really nasty for dinner.
I always keep a spare ski for the 2-hour shows. Too,
so I'm going to ask you to take over for a quick second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I need to refill my tankard.
Yeah, I keep a spare ski around for these occasions. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Oh, Sandwich Savant says the ground at Bluff Creek was red with blood. Are we talking about M.K. Davis's stuff? His theory about the... Did I miss that while I was out? His theory about the Bigfoot Massacre at Bluff Creek. I think we've pretty much established that probably didn't happen. Yeah. Ben. How you doing, Ben? Said if the Yorkie catches a drone, we want to know. All right. So far, Ben, there's no reports of drones over Kentucky, not that I'm aware of. Last time I looked outside, I didn't see any either. So, but depends on, I guess if they don't want them shot down, they probably won't fly them over Kentucky or Tennessee because these guys are trigger happy around here. Oh, that's what they want us to think. I agree. Yeah. Steve, does your Yorkie take? No. I don't know. My Yorkies do. Of course, the wife has a herd of them. We have 9, and believe me, that's a lot. One is enough. But they do like to nibble at your feet, especially when you first walk into their room. Everybody gets kind of super excited and want to see you. If a Yorkie captures a drone, what would it do with it? I'm not certain. Mine would probably rip it up.
Or it'd fly away. Well, the drones over in New Jersey would probably fly away with it.
Yeah. It's true because MK said so. There was a little discussion from Sandwich Savant about the ground being red at Bluff Creek. And I think that was MK's Bluff Creek Massacre theory thing. But
yeah, well, while you were gone, somebody brought up the fact of the thing. And like I said, here's a guy that's being not so relevant after the work of Bill Munn's taking place.
Right.
You know, Bill Munn's has done a lot more informative work on that. Plus, you have the Bluff Creek Project. Plus, there was a lot of ruminations that MK went to the wrong area for the Bluff Creek site to begin with.
Yeah.
And
Bill's the first one to do a frame-by-frame scan analysis.
Well, I don't know him. All right. So here's the issue. How the hell can we tell sarcasm on a text?
Oh.
Maybe a goofy emoji like this one. No, I don't know. As you can see, I'm kind of getting in a silly mood right now. But yeah, there is a lot of different psyops out there. And like I said, TV is nothing but a psyop. To keep butts in the chair and fingers off the clicker.
Well, that's I was.
I'm sorry. That is kind of a Gen X term, clicker.
There were not.
We'll keep it off the remote.
So far, there's not been any drones or any major drone activity reported over Kentucky or Tennessee. And I had pointed out that that's probably because people are raring to shoot them down here.
Riffraff, I have more finer words for that theory than just horse bucky.
We appreciate you keeping it rated PG there, Riffraff. Or rated G. That was rated G. Thank you.
Because I won't. Uh-oh. So,
okay, Kaiju Ninja has a theory here. The platypus is a psyop.
Sure is.
I think there's an argument for that.
Now comes the part where we throw our heads back and laugh. Ready?
Ready!
I don't really believe that's an actual animal. I think the government just made that up as a joke for us,
Now that was what happens when God goes on a bender. Hey, everybody, watch this.
Yeah. A mammal with a duck bill that's venomous.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to offend anybody being shy, but that's just too funny. So.
Oh.
That is just too funny.
I could tell you were a fan of what's his name's movies? Oh gosh.
Mel Brooks.
Mel Brooks, yes. Mel Brooks movies. Yes. Absolutely.
I have these 15. 10 commandments. Yeah.
Oh man. Jen's got a theory. Oh, wait a minute. There we go. The platypus comes from Montauk. I don't know. If you could think, beaver tail. Yeah. Weird looking little creatures. I mean,
beaver tail, duck bill.
No, I'm not making.
What if I cross a duck with a beaver?
Yeah, exactly.
And you know what? We'll throw a little rattlesnake poison in it too.
It's beyond belief,
Oh, excuse me, venom. Well, I don't want to be non-scientific here.
Yeah, well, it's beyond belief though, this creature, but it exists, and if that exists, I think there's room for Bigfoot.
Think about, you want to talk about psyops, think about some of the Discovery Channel fake-umentaries, the Russian killer Yeti.
Oh yeah.
The mermaid special.
Right.
The megalodon. All these. The capture of Bigfoot. Starring Kelly Clickbait Shaw.
Oh. Yeah, Grasshopper says south of the equator is just weird. Yeah, their toilets go the other way. The
You
water
know what?
spins the other way.
I don't know if you noticed tonight. I don't feel
Right.
like being necessarily reserved tonight. You know, because truthfully, people can sling mud at me, and I'm expected to sit there and take it. I have the facts behind me. I'm not really worried about it.
I'm reading the chat, Steve.
Huh?
Ben Radford's in the chat.
Thank you, Ben.
Well, there's lots of conspiracy theories going on about the drone traffic, And when you have other things in the news like that really is not being covered in the news very well. The reason that I know about this is because the wife is from Thailand and she typically reads Thai news daily. And she informed me about it. And they said in Thailand, this was about the story about the 300 vials, over 300 vials
Yeah.
of viruses missing from a lab in Australia. ABC News is supposed to be covering it here, but it's really buried.
Well, here's the interesting thing. A little suggestion. If you really want to know what's going on in the world, listen to BBC World News. Then you'll understand what's going on in the world. You'll understand what's going on in Europe. You'll understand what's going on in Africa and Asia and everything.
Right.
Here, you get so glossed over about what's really going on, unless something's really huge going on.
Yeah.
We sit there and we wonder why, as Americans, we're blindsided, right? It's because our news is just, again, it's a psyop.
Our news is no longer news.
It's a psyop.
You could call it.
The news is out there to evoke an emotional response.
Yes. We are receiving
to benefit who? Their ratings. And if you look at the news media, that's why in the 80s they talked about the daycare centers and they went after the McMartins, who were all acquitted. Right? Then you have the church controversy dealing with the same thing, right? Because it got people tuning in every flipping night, right?
Yeah.
And you thought there was a pandemic of priests doing dirty things, when in actuality it does happen. Not saying it doesn't, and there are many, but the church is huge, right? Let's not talk about the number of Boy Scout camp counselors that have been caught doing stuff like that, or teachers or daycare workers, the real daycare workers combined. And then of course it's the school thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they focus on that, and then it's it's whatever can evoke a reaction to keep that person dialed in and tuning into that network. It's all a psyop. That's the difference between why that kind of legacy stuff is going the way of, this is where you get your news from, is from YouTube. But you have to be very careful because, for the same reason legacy media can do it, to keep people watching so they get their ad revenue, the same goes for people on YouTube putting out, it's a broken arrow scenario with this drone, missing drones. It's all for the money. Right?
I think everybody, especially everybody in the United States, or most people in the United States now, have learned to go to the source. Now, when they hear a story about something, they should go to the source and watch the full video of what exactly happened, rather than rely on what somebody else is telling them that happened, because that person may be leaving out a whole lot of things, or they may be changing the story in a way to benefit their personal motive. So consider the source. Go to the original source material. Again, that's not political. We're not doing politics.
Nope.
So I don't like the way our news has become opinion-based media, trying to
And where am I wrong, Grass? Set me straight. Set me straight.
Yeah, I said foreign news is the way to go. It's more well-rounded and actually discusses the newsworthy events around the world. Our news is just reporting obnoxious statements, then ask people what they think. That's true. That's true. I spend a lot of time watching Sky News out of Australia. You know, of course, I do. The wife gives me the rundown on what's happening in Thailand, and their world news is better than ours. It's much better than ours. That's how I found out about the Australia, over 300 vials of viruses missing.
Grass, you know why you're too old for it? Because you're too old. No, really, it can happen to people because I've been there. I've been there where I just don't give a crap anymore. I've been there. Yeah, I go through my phases, including with the Bigfoot field. Don't get me wrong. There's times when I'm very enthusiastic about it, and there's times when I'm just blasé about it. And the reason being is I get tired of all the bullshit and misinformation, and I have to do my complimentary curse word of the night. I get tired of all of that. And we got to keep our PG-13 rating going on, Chris. So.
Yeah.
I get tired of it too. If you don't think, great topic. Let's talk about Bigfoot fatigue. Right? People get probably tired of me saying that Bigfoot's a primate, yada, yada, yada. But I get tired of people saying they're going to solve the Bigfoot mystery with a drone. Oh, a drone will do it. The thermal on it will do it. Shut up. Stop talking about it and just do it. We listened to BS from the Falcon Project for how many years until that device became outdated by drones?
Yeah.
Right? He did it. He talked about it for 10 flipping years, claimed to have all these financial backers, and guess what happened? Not a damn thing. You want to talk about Bigfoot fatigue? We have some lady out in Texas claiming to be a geneticist, claiming that she's going to have an honest study, and then pulls the chicanery she did. You want to talk about Bigfoot fatigue? You want to talk about Bigfoot fatigue being blamed for not condemning somebody without the evidence? You want to talk about Bigfoot fatigue? Right? There's plenty of Bigfoot fatigue out there. Primate is not a cop-out. The definition of a primate is articulate hands and feet, forward-facing eyes, large brain, small snout. End of story.
Well, I think we could definitely say that they're primates. I don't know what else you would say. Could it be a marsupial? It'd still be a marsupial primate, right?
No, it's a reptile.
Lizard man.
Yeah, I took my sick iguana to the vet. It was horrible. You know why?
Why is that?
He had reptile dysfunction.
Okay. Do they have pills for that? I don't think. Oh man. Flatty Squatch. Well, there's a thing. I was kind of joking about the marsupial thing, but they have Bigfoot reports from Australia, the Yowie, and everything over there is got a pouch and carries this baby in a pouch. So could
not the platypus, not the platypus.
Okay, all right. Not everything, literally. Okay, the snakes don't have one. All right, but you have the kangaroos and all.
The Aborigines don't have a pouch.
No, they don't. They don't have hair. I mean, fur, rather. They do have hair, obviously. They're not bald like me. But that's kind of weird. Yeah. I think it's a mammal of some type. What type? I don't know. Marsupial Sasquatch. Faster man. Uh-oh. Okay.
What's up?
I was reading Faster Man there. Starting to get news sources. Okay. Yeah, I got you. Eyes in the Woods said maybe we should all take a year off. Go out back and study snowshoe hares. They're cool and cute, fast, and no one will try to tell me it's not a rabbit. Well,
Timothy, how are you, Tim?
Yeah, in all honesty, we don't know that Bigfoot is a mammal, but it seems to have hair. It seems to have hair, so that's a pretty good indicator there.
Well, let's see. It's been described as human-like. How many times?
They live every time, basically. they also don't have any problem living in.
I just don't get people saying it's not a primate.
Well, they don't have any problem living in extremely cold climates, so there have to be some way that they regulate their body temperature. Now if there were no Bigfoot above the Georgia line, I could think, well, maybe they.
Well, Grass, why don't you skip calling it a mammal and just call it some sort of animal? That's a cop-out. That's a cop-out for not standing up and looking at the science. If it exists, it's a primate. That's a cop-out.
I would think we're talking about 2 arms and 2 legs.
5 fingers, 5 toes.
Yeah. Sometimes 3. Sometimes 3 toes.
Yeah, well,
those are to be believed. If they're to be believed, yeah. And mainly, I was talking about the ones in the bean field in Arkansas, the 3-toed tracks. But I don't think the ones in where was it? Somewhere around in Louisiana, that swamp place. Oh gosh, what was the name of that swamp where they found that those 3-toed tracks that were faked?
Oh, Honey Island Swamp.
Honey Island, yes.
Well, they were also found in what is it? The Ore Swamp or the Orescape Swamp, which is where the lizard man is.
Right.
They were definitely. I mean, I've looked at the Honey Island tracks, and they look like either a heron or a Duke-Lava gator to me. Because they seem to be reptilian, and if you look even at birds, their feet are very reptilian like because they are kind of an offshoot, because they are the last really they are direct descendants of dinosaurs. So they do have that kind of reptile feel to them. The ones that were in Scape Ore Swamp, which is in Bishopville, South Carolina, the whole lizard man thing, those were fake tracks. You could see dowel marks in them. There were multiple casts, and all of their toe splays were the same, which is indicative of a stamper, not a biological foot.
Right.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you, Boris. Scape Ore Swamp. I know it's Orescape or Swamp. Yeah.
Well, and that's a good reason to start studying tracks. How things work, how the foot works.
Right. Well, it's like in 2009, I started looking at, what were the indicators that Bigfoot was a primate, and it's behaviorally, it acts like a primate, it looks like a primate. I mean, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, smells like a duck, It's a duck, right?
Right.
So Bigfoot walks like a Homo sapien, which is a primate. Has a neck, sagittal crest, lack of a neck, like a primate. The certain primates do. It has, breasts, like two breasts, I might add, like a primate does. Right.
And that's been verified by other people than the Patterson Gimlin film.
That is correct.
There are girls out there, big hairy girls.
Right. It has 5 toes, 5 fingers. Strangely, though, a lot of other animals have 5 toes and, whatever themselves. Yeah. So that's not necessarily indicative of a primate. However, the articulateness of the hands and the articulation of the feet are primate-like. So, but what really convinced me of the whole primate thing is the behavior. The way they act in certain situations is typical to primate behavior.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Why don't they rip us apart? Well, the same reason why we don't see a gorilla and shoot one automatically. Because we have...
Well, they do bring up a primal fear, though.
Yeah.
You see one.
Well, the primal fear that seeing a Bigfoot does brings it into the anthropological phase of folklore, because that's the downside of this. Is you got to understand that according to folklorists, that we've always had a boogeyman, and is Bigfoot our boogeyman, right?
Right. Yeah, there's always the stories to keep the kids from going out away from the...
There are people that believe in Bigfoot that do not believe in ghosts, right?
Right.
There are people that believe in ghosts that do not believe in Bigfoot. There are people who believe in UFOs that don't believe in Bigfoot or believe in ghosts, and vice versa, right? But my point is how can you look at one particular mystery and say something does not exist? I believe in Bigfoot exists because of the witnesses and their a lot of the information that they may not know about corresponds with other sightings. Well, who am I to say that somebody didn't see a ghost? Or take away their how can so many people be wrong? More people have seen ghosts than they've seen Bigfoot. More people have seen UAP/UFOs than Bigfoot. How can we discount them? Right?
Yeah.
And yes, there are.
Don says, seeing is believing. Yeah, that's right, Don.
And I agree. I've seen twice. But when I'm saying it, and I guess what? I've also seen a ghost. I've also seen UAPs. So, but even so, there is more of an existential argument as to, okay, I saw UAP, but what did I see? I saw a ghost, but what did I see? You see a Bigfoot. I know what I saw, right? But there are people that are in this that want to make it more than what it is. So I don't know.
I think a lot of more people would probably see them if they get out into the wilderness, do some trekking, some hiking, and get away from having tunnel vision. The tunnel vision where they focus narrowly on maybe just the ground in front of them and a few feet ahead. You got to stop and look around,
right?
Look in the scenery.
And I understand completely all the critics' responses and why they have their objections. And I can't necessarily say I disagree with everything they say. I agree with a lot of what they say. We just need to be better at it. We need to be better at what we accept as real versus not. We need to be conservative in our estimations of what it is or isn't. I feel a lot of those things are important.
Yeah.
People are just as prone to structure their experience to fit preconditioning. Very true. Very true. But my study of what they were in other people's conditioning had nothing to do with it, because unlike a lot of folks that are out there, I got my information and my sighting reports from people like Ivan Sanderson, John Green, Bob Titmus, Grover Krantz, Renee DeHinden. That's where I got the sighting reports from. Before there was all this paranormality and, oh, well, I can't say it's this or that. I got all that information from them. I didn't study who had the latest YouTube sighting or who had the latest Facebook sighting. A lot of people forget that perspective. That I am not a new researcher. My sighting reports came out of books. Dr. John Napier and Ann B. Slate. There's a couple of more names. Eric Baum. Oh, by the way, that was a pseudonym for John Keel. That's where I got my sighting reports from, the people they interviewed, what they were describing. It was before all this internet gobbledygook about, paranormalism or woo or any of that. Yeah. And it's funny how the woo has increased with the advent of social media. Yeah. And the weirdness has increased with the advent of social media. People say, well, how can you discount that? Well, that's funny. People weren't talking about that in the 50s and in the 20s and the 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s when they were seeing all these things, or even the 70s. It wasn't until social media started coming around about 2006 when all this stuff started blowing up. You had a couple of people like Eric Beckshard and James Kawani Lapsaritis. Right. They were the only two that were talking about this. Then you had Mary Green and Janice Carter come along and talk about their habituation stories. But they weren't woo. They were just, oh, the Bigfoots are visiting me and asking me for things and this really weird sort of incantation stuff. And guess what amplified them? Social media.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, some of the stories, like Fred Beck's original interview with Roger Patterson, he gave the account of his encounter with these creatures, and there was no woo mentioned there whatsoever. Yet in his book, I Fought the 8 Men of Mount St. Helens, it was filled with woo. They were talking about weird stuff like spirit arrows.
So Bat Mom says, well, maybe no one was talking about it because there was no internet for it to get around. No, baloney. The Mothman was very paranormal in its aspects, wasn't it? Strange phone calls. People were talking about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, the Mothman kind of grew legs.
It had nothing to do with, it just didn't exist until the internet. It wasn't the fact that people weren't talking about it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have volumes of books. Janet and Colin Board, the Bigfoot Case book, which was first published in 1980. Yeah. Right? Maybe one story of woo in the whole thing, if that. Right?
Yeah. I think that's right.
It wasn't the fact that it wasn't. I'm sorry. What was that?
The Jerry Crew coined the term Bigfoot.
No.
The newspaper article.
The reporter did. His name escapes me right now.
Okay. I can't think.
And no, Jerry Crew did not hoax those prints.
No, those were not.
Those
Those
were
are
not
not Wallace Stompers. No, no.
No. In fact, they kept finding him, and it was Bob Titmus who taught Jerry Crew how to cast tracks. So the next time he found him, thank you, Grass. We did. We had Bigfoot stuff long before the internet. Yeah. And Batmom, before we had social media, we had bulletin boards, we had email groups, Yahoo groups. Remember, you used to join Yahoo groups and you belong to different Bigfoot groups, and we talk about sightings and stuff like that. The woo didn't start coming out until social media came out, and people generated, again, cult followings. Janet Carter, Mary Green. Lapsaritis began to have a following. Berkshire did not, because Berkshire was just a prick. Pardon my French again.
In the 1970s, there was a newsletter that.
Thank you, Pancho. It was Andrew Ginzoli. That's right.
Bigfoot.
Yep. Absolutely correct.
Available. You could send a self-addressed stamped envelope, and they would send you a copy of the newsletter about Bigfoot. And I cannot remember. I think that was.
And then you had some great newsletters back in the 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. Ray Crow, the late great Ray Crow, up in Washington State, had a wonderful newsletter. No woo. Then we had, of course, Daniel Perez.
Yeah.
And it's the Bigfoot Times. It's just still going on today.
Right. He's had a blog forever, right? Yeah.
Right. So you have those. Then you have the Peter Burns sightings database and the John Green sightings database.
Yeah.
Which is no longer available on the web, but it was for a time. It may still be there. I don't know. Maybe I lost the link. But there is a lot to understand about. I never thought getting into Bigfoot would be a study of people as much as it was the creature itself. Never thought that. I went in this dumb and blind that there would be people who would try to take advantage of you, people who would lie to you about the topic, people who would cheat you about the topic, people who would, say lies to get themselves a cult following. I tell it like it is. Hey, if you want to follow me for that reason, then that's wonderful. If you don't like it, channel may not be for you. And that is just a fact.
Well, there's probably some money in making up Bigfoot stories and going on.
Well, there's more. There's more money making Bigfoot stories than there is telling the truth, because the truth is not exciting. The truth is not a psyop, right?
Exactly.
The truth is there, whether it gets you an emotional response or not.
Right.
Maybe the only emotional response it gets you a lot of times is disgust.
Yeah.
Right. And that is another sad thing about being Bigfoot.
Yeah. Unfortunately, because of social media, a lot of the times we look at a picture and we can say, "Oh, well, this is a gorilla suit, and that's available."
And then,
so and so.
How has that evolved over just the last few years? Now we see the same pictures coming up over and over again with different stories on them.
Yeah,
different stories on them. So even that's evolving. The fakeness is evolving and it's expanding. It's to the point where the internet will be useless as a tool to a Bigfoot investigator, to a UAP investigator, to a ghost investigator, because of all the bullshit stories, the bullshit pictures, and the bullshit videos.
The hoaxers are becoming lazy. They're not even doing their own pictures anymore.
No, they're just taking somebody else's that they did 20 years ago.
Make up a new story about it, right?
Oh, it's been 5 years. Let me use this picture. Hey, I saw this while I was camping last week, and I snapped this picture.
Well, the best one that I had seen, best hoax, and it's not related to Bigfoot, but it's related to hoaxing, was that thylacine photo those photos we were looking at and checked out and did the show on here all back. Those
Chris,
were good. Yeah.
Chris, people not only do it on YouTube, they do it on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and of course, Reddit as well. Yeah. So it's all over the place. And Facebook. Everywhere there is social media, there are liars and there are scammers and there are punks. All I'm saying is when I come up with something, when we do an editorial show like tonight, I'm just giving you my thoughts on things from somebody that I just want the truth.
Yeah.
I want this mystery to be solved. And when you have people running around the woods with EMF detectors, running around the woods with, Bigfoot's paranormal. They're not going to do anything to advance the cause. We need people that need to be back to tactically thinking that we are tracking a primate. And the reason why I say it's a primate, because it thinks like a primate. Primates are pretty damned smart, and they're pretty damned cagey.
Yeah,
if it was just another dumb animal, right, this would have been game over after 30 years or so, 40 years or so. Like the panda, or like the gorilla. The gorilla's a primate, but that took time. That took 70 plus years between getting all of them. And they're still finding more ape species out there as well.
Yeah. And new human species. Well,
And Chris Helton, the greatest example of the YouTube liars, just look at last week's show. There's a guy that looked like he had great credibility to everybody because he was telling everybody how to bushcraft and do all this stuff and live off the grid and all this stuff. And then he comes up with a couple of Bigfoot videos that are complete fabrication. Well, at least one of them was. Let me put it that way. Complete fabrication. Lying about what people were saying and about what they were saying things about. Calling people by phony titles.
Made up quote. Right. There's a difference between adding clarification to somebody's quote and making a completely different quote up.
Right.
You don't do that.
Right. Or calling somebody a geneticist when they're a veterinarian. Calling somebody a genetics scientist when they're another veterinarian. Calling people a doctor of anthropology when they're actually only have a master's in anthropology.
Yeah.
Calling them a cryptozoologist like that's some kind of academic term. Right? That's a hobbyist term. People get hung up over, well, who are you to call yourself a cryptozoologist? Well, when I was 12 years old, I called myself a philatelist, and that was a stamp collector. Right? It's just a term. I'm a splunker. I go into caves. Right? You're a philatelist.
Yeah.
Right?
Used to go into caves when I was a kid, but not anymore. No thanks.
Poncho said something.
Poncho.
Hey, tell Tex I said hello. Right back at you. I know Tex.
Kaiju Ninja said Bigfoot is smarter than us. I think they are, about survival in the woods. I believe they are.
I think they're more adept to the woods than we are.
Yeah. Yes.
That makes them kind of more of a master in that domain necessarily.
I'm fairly certain they know.
But smart how? Smart in brains is a complete that's a frame of reference. It's a frame. It's kind of like an expert. It's a frame. It's a point of reference. Yeah. Are they smarter in the woods than us? Yes.
Yes.
Put Bigfoot in the classroom. I don't think they're going to do too well.
No. Right? But yeah, it depends on the situation. I'm looking at there being a smarter survivalist than we are because, of course, they live in the wilderness.
Well, that's their genetics. That's their is to their survival.
Sure.
That's built into them. That's their that's the word I was looking at. That's their instinct. We don't have right. So when we go into their territory, they're working on instinct while we're working on knowledge. And sometimes knowledge takes a little time to adapt and overcome, whereas instinct is almost instantaneous.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's not. Maybe they're not really what we would call book smart, but they certainly are good survivalists. Like a brain surgeon, maybe a brain surgeon, he knows what's going on inside your brain there. Yeah, in Russia.
In Russia.
Tractors. Yes.
Yes. In fact, Chris is coming over to build me a moat tomorrow with the tractor.
Well, I would gladly put that one to work if you wanted a job. We can do some tractor work, hay cutting, things like that. Hay hauling. Well, those guys would be good for that.
So, Nick, I've always said infrasound is a theory. I'm kind of leaning towards it exists, but can I prove it? No. Chris says we know it's more likely a primate, but most people think primates are just monkeys and don't realize that we're primates. We are. We're primates.
We are.
We are. And then there's comments saying, Chris, that sure explain native tribes live in jungle forests. Well, that's the reason why. Nick, instinctually, we had the same ability as a Bigfoot, right?
Yeah.
There are certain people, certain cultures that have retained their initial instincts to be out in the wilderness, such as the Amazonian tribes or tribes in Africa, right? Where they can spot something like on the fly. But us, as most of us being related to European settlers, or for the most part, or descendants of Africans that came over here as slaves and that got forced into Europeanism, or Asians that came over here, or any of the Aboriginals that came here and that got forced into Europeanism or imperialism, and however you want to call it. We've kind of became modern Homo sapiens, and we have lost, because think about that, right? We are modern man, and the people that are in the woods still living off their instincts from where we came from. Yeah. They're primitive man, right? So we denigrate them by calling them primitive, because they kept their instincts and we moved away from our instincts.
Yeah.
So it's all vernacular wordplay. That's all it is.
Yeah. Well, this show years ago I used to watch. It's called Living with the Mech Tribe, and I think it was Mark and Ollie, these two British guys that moved in with the Mech Tribe, and they were in Papua New Guinea. And that was just an awesome show. I love that. And they were just totally, they were basically helpless. And the Mech people would kind of train them and teach them how to live with them. And that was just such a great show. And I highly recommend it if you can find it anywhere. I don't know what it's available on.
The thing is that, culturally, the goals are different.
Right.
In those native primitive man, their primary goals, I would think, is family, survival of the tribe,
right?
Whereas you come to modern man, and it's every man for himself and materialism. That's the difference between us and them a lot of times. Yeah. And I'm sorry, people say, well, do I want to? I don't want to be a primitive man. I enjoy my luxury comforts. I'm glad I don't have to go out and hunt for my food every day. Call me lazy.
Exactly.
Yeah, but now we have people that won't even go shopping, and they'll have Walmart deliver their groceries and that was a result of the pandemic.
Right.
A lot of people say, well, I don't have to go there. People will deliver it, and they've kept doing that. Right. And so I don't know. If you want to live in total isolation, that gets tiring real fast.
Well, yeah, I don't want to go camping anymore.
But Chris, we've had a great philosophical show. Wednesday night we'll have another great show. We'll have a lot of stuff coming up too. A lot of great answers. We'll have our extra 1 hour challenge. Of course, we got one in the bag. Usually we do 5 super chats. We got 1 in the bag, 2 in the bag from Danny and Lori. Danny and Lori, and we can count Jay for gifting 5 as well.
Yeah.
So a couple of more next week, or a couple of more on Wednesday, and we'll kick it over for an hour. How about that? So, So anyway, Chris, do your thing, brother.
Well, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us tonight, and we're always honored to have you. And just keep in mind, we're probably not being invaded by aliens. It's but if it's the first time watching the show, if you hadn't already, hit the subscribe button, smash the thumbs up button. It helps out the algorithm, and they tell us that helps the channel. But I want to thank you guys for listening and joining us in chat, and all you guys on the podcast too that's listening. I'm not going to go through all of them, but thank you for listening. Make sure you get over to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/SquatchDTV.
At SquatchDTV.
At SquatchDTV. Yeah, the little at symbol. Gotta have that in
there. Yes. And before we go, I'll just say that grassroot origin, Middle English from Old English, French primate, from Latin primus, primate of the first rank. But which primate is the first that others aren't primus? Can't all be first. Very good question. Okay, folks, on behalf of me and everybody else, we want to wish everybody happy and healthy next couple of days. We'll see you all here Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, for an all-new Squatch-D TV Live. And, folks, we'll see you on the flip side. Everybody, be good.
We thank you for being here with us on Squatch-D TV. If you haven't taken the time yet, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And, oh, yes, hit that notification bell, too. We don't want you to miss anything. If you really like our content, you should consider becoming a member, and it's really inexpensive and a great way to support not only the show, but honest Bigfoot research. Everyone have a great week. Be safe, and God bless. We will see you all here next time on Squatch-D TV. Keep on squatching.